there is a EuroLeague season without Kostas Sloukas hitting 2 game winners at least, it's not a EuroLeague season, I guess. We saw one against Real Madrid and him pump faking Eddie Tavares going inside, and now this, crazy shot. How probably 1 millisecond more and Hayes Davis blocks that shot.
Had the same note. Hayes was millisecond late of reacting to this, switch of the angle of Sloukas' direction. It was amazing handle, by the way. That's another example why kids just, practice ball handling, and also those crazy shots. Because as Vezenkov said, this shot, he was making those shots every practice basically. So, what was your favorite moment of this whole sequence of Kostas Sloukas magic?
My favorite moment was like 3 left-handers hitting big shots in a row. It started with Vezenkov, then it was Guduric, and in the end, Sloukas.
It actually started with Nick Kalatis.
Yeah, Nick hit the 3, but he's not left-handed, so I didn't include him into this sequence. Just 3 left-handed players hitting big shots. However, I couldn't help but think about Guduric last
decision.
Yeah, exactly. In the perfect world, you shouldn't leave an opportunity for Olympiacos to have their last say, and they had almost 4 seconds.
He started way too early.
Yeah, hitting the shot is good. It's okay. You're leading, but you're at the same time you're giving an opportunity to the team with the clutchest players in the league to have their last shot. So I think in this situation you should go for a buzzer beater. If it goes in, you're happy. If it doesn't, you go and play overtime.
I'm always surprised when teams, let's say are down 1 and they opt to go for a last shot instead of going early. And then, if they miss, they can foul. So I'm always surprised by that. And now you are with what Guduric made is now you are giving time to the opponents and you're leaving yourself a possibility to lose. Basically, that's what happened. Maybe if he makes a 3, then it's a different story. But going that early, I know it's probably was a hard moment, an emotional moment. He just wanted to make that shot, but I don't know. He went way too early. In those last 4 seconds, Kostas Sloukas seemed like in a big trouble.
Yeah.
His first move going right, he seems like in a big trouble. That behind the back gets him a nice room of space, and then just amazing shot over Nigel Hayes Davis.
And in Guduric's defense, I have to say that once he stopped dribbling the ball, he had to shoot. He had no other options.
Yeah.
It's just that it happened too early. Making the shot is, like I said, is great. It shows how good he is. But you're leaving an opportunity for a team with a history of game winners to have that shot, and it's just like meant to be for Sloukas. Not only because he does that every season, but also because it is in Istanbul against Fenerbahce, a team where he had a lot of success himself.
Because he was hot as well. It was an amazing night for Lucas. I checked that he was just 2 points shy away from his all-time EuroLeague scoring record, but this
27 is his max?
26. It sounds very low, to be honest, but 25 is his all-time playoff record. So it was a career night in the playoff, the post-regular season stage.
Honestly, this season, I don't think Sloukas had very good percentages from 3. And right now, when it matters, he hits a shot over Hayes Davis.
33%.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's like acceptable, but not great. But that's the thing with these
he's a 40%
big players.
40% shooter throughout his career.
Yeah, so this year it's not his best season shooting 3, but like I said, it's just these big players.
They're built for big moments.
Yeah, the legacy of Vasilis Panouris, for example, never a good shooter, never had good percentages during the regular season, but you don't want him taking the last shot if you're playing against Olympiacos, and now Sloukas is the guy. Yeah,
these Greeks, they know something. They know something that we don't know actually. But yes, Sloukas had kind of roller coaster season, at least in terms of shooting efficiency. But he's built for big plays like that, and also for big games, big series. Because, for instance, in the playoffs, he's just amazing, scoring 16 points per game on tremendous 71% 2-point shooting, 50% 3-point shooting. He's perfect from the free throw line, almost 4 assists, and all of these numbers in only 21 minutes per game. It's just incredible.
I also loved his reaction to Vezenkov shot.
Yeah. Like, oh my God.
What was that? Little did he know there's going to be an even more spectacular shot later, but that reaction was so great.
And Sasha's reaction to Sloukas' shot was like, did it count? Did it count? He was like, wait, did he get off in time? I mean,
I think another iconic and kind of underrated thing is when an away team hits a game winner, how everybody rushes to the straight
kind
to the
top.
top.
Loved it.
Derek Fisher move. That was Derek Fisher move.
But Derek Fisher did the move because if they leave early, there's no way they can review the shot. they just leave the gym. It was 2004.
The bus already left.
Yeah.
We didn't even take the shower.
It was 2004, you know. But in Europe, it happens all the time. If teams hit game winners in hostile atmospheres like Oaxaca or Istanbul or Belgrade, they just run.
Yeah.
And Sloukas did I think he didn't have a sprint like that during the game.
and it was wonderful to see how many guys tried to catch him, actually. And it's the first time I saw the head coach sprinting towards the player, because it was Bartzokas, but Sloukas was just too fast for everyone.
Bartzokas' reaction, when I saw the pictures, I thought he's going to do like a knee slide, like Mourinho or something like that. The way he was running, it seemed like he's celebrating the title or something like that. Although it's an important win, of course, it was a pivotal game that could break the series for both teams. And right now, Olympiacos is in a great position, of course, and Fenerbahce, I can't help but think they were so close. And
this could destroy their...
Exactly. If you would be in a position right now to close the series tomorrow at home, that's like a perfect opportunity for you as an 8th-seeded team to make it to the Final Four and create this amazing story. But right now, that game slipped from them, from their hands. And of course, it was down to all these clutch moments, these big shots. But we have to talk about what happened before that, probably during the game, and it was just a very physical battle, in my opinion. What do you guys think?
Just the last thing to add about this magical moments of Kostas Sloukas. Of course, it was the topic of the night, and probably all EuroLeague cities, including even Kaunas. Barca basically finished the series earlier in Kaunas, but the entire team, the entire roster stayed in the locker room to watch the fourth quarter of Olympiacos Fenerbahce. And I remember it caught our attention when we were also waiting for some interviews, also watching the game at the same time. And we heard the first reactions when Thomas Walkup did Darius Songaila pass.
Oh, yeah.
Probably only Lithuanians know that ridiculous pass in 2011 quarterfinals against Macedonia. And it was the moment when his Greek passport actually was on the line, I think, if Olympiacos would have lost that game. So we already heard some guys screaming. And then we understood that guys are watching the game, and we kind of put the camera behind the door of their locker room. And we heard guys screaming when Sloukas made the shot, and when just later we realized that there were two former Fenerbahce players in the locker room of Barcelona, Jan Vesely and Nikola Kalinic. And actually afterwards we had a short discussion about how Fenerbahce could have tried to play defense in that situation. And the initial idea was that in those situations, you do everything in your power to force the guy not to shoot the three-pointer, but to drive or to take some other decisions, just basically taking away any three-point shot opportunity. But at the same time, it felt like Fenerbahce did everything that was in their power. I mean, Deschamps Pierre, when he approached Sloukas, he was very active with his hands, not to give any opportunity to think about the shot, but just his handles. And that, again, Hayes was millisecond late for that switch because of Vezenkov's pick. Kind of gave Sloukas a theoretical opportunity to launch that shot, but for Sloukas, it was enough.
Tariq Black was wide open, cutting to the rim there. If you rewind that play, nobody saw him cutting.
Yeah, that's why Kalatis was like sprinting back to the basket because there was kind of miscommunication between the guys.
He was wide open, and I was like, is nobody seeing him on that pass? It could have been, an overtime, and I was like, oh, okay, ball to Sloukas. He's not wide open. Oh, okay, he has some space, and then he hits that shot, and I'm like, okay, that's even better. But Tariq Black was there also for a layup in my eyes.
Even before the pass to Sloukas?
Yeah, he was.
Or when Sloukas got the ball?
No, he was basically, there was a miscommunication on the slip on the pick, and he was cutting basically in the middle of the paint towards the basket completely alone, and nobody even recognized him, neither Fener nor Olympiacos. So they could have gotten an overtime there as well.
By the way, everyone will remember this crazy shot by Sloukas and his performance, Vezenkov as well. But I think that Tariq Black, especially defensively, he played an important role in the last 90 seconds of the game. First of all, taking away the 3-point shot opportunity of Tyler Dorsey. And the next possession, he brought some good help to contest another miss by Dorsey when he was penetrating. And even in that situation, when Vezenkov hit the 3-pointer, it felt like Tariq Black and him rolling to the basket kind of confused Fenerbahce defense, where again Hayes kind of stayed with Black, and it gave like 2 centimeters for Vezenkov, to create some room for that NBA 3-pointer. I would say so. Tariq Black should be one of the unsung heroes of that final possessions.
He was plus 16 in 20 minutes played. He had plus minus of 16 points, and as you mentioned, on defense, but also punishing Fener's switching defense in the last quarter. I think his steals under the basket helped a lot.
And that is a player who, during the regular season, was constantly in foul trouble, had some poor performances in some regular season games. We remember him in Kaunas. He almost cost Olympiacos that game against Zalgiris, and all of a sudden in game 3 of a quarterfinal series, he steps up and plays big, and that again shows how strong is Olympiacos. But just your opinions about the game, the whole game. Was Fenerbahce in control, in your opinion?
I mean, I'm just happy, that this series are not going one way. I think Fenerbahce and Dimitris Tudis deserve a lot of credit for making this a series. I mean, if Sloukas doesn't hit that shot right now, we are talking that they're 1 win away from the Final Four and having the Game 4 in Istanbul. So they did what I expected them to do. They switch a lot and just confuse Olympiacos' offense. And yesterday, for example, great performance by Vezenkov, but on the switches, when he gets the ball inside, he immediately starts to turns and no dribble shoot. It's a hard shot. It's a fading away shot immediately after a catch. He didn't make those. Yes, Sloukas did a great job attacking those isolations and passing the ball for bigs in the fourth quarter. But for 3 quarters, it confused Olympiacos. What happened in the fourth is that Bartzokas on a mismatch is inside. He pulls his guys from the corners to the top. So there's basically no one helping on the lob pass, and then it's trouble for Fener. But keeping Olympiacos in this low 70s is a great accomplishment for Fenerbahce, and I think they are they're choosing the right points to pressure in this Olympiacos team. Thomas Walkup is getting Nicoladis treatment. Basically, they're going under on every screen with his, not letting him create, forcing him to shoot. He's 1 of 10 from the 3-point range in this series, missing some open mid ranges as well. So just doing everything in their power and exposing these small weaknesses in Olympiacos' roster. And as I said, we could be talking about 2-1 lead for Fenerbahce if magical shot of Sloukas doesn't happen.
Actually, Fenerbahce didn't finish the regular season in a very good shape, and some people said that it's not going to be a series. Like Olympiacos should have it in 3 or in 4.
I said in 3 Olympiacos.
I said in 5 because I always thought that the number one seed will be tested, because Fenerbahce is not your regular 8-seeded team. And
True.
yes, they didn't finish the regular season in a good shape, but usually in these moments you look at the quality they have and an experience rather than their results or some games they dropped basically during the last weeks.
Both head-to-head matchups were
Yeah,
total blowouts. They were like
exactly.
plus 25 leads in the second
But
quarter
if you
already.
put it into context,
Yeah,
they played these games when Fenerbahce had injury problems and they were not playing
True.
their best basketball. So in general, I always believe that it could be a great series. And of course, game 2 made it a good series when they had a comeback from 16.
Yeah.
They were down 16, right? This game could have went either way. And if Olympiacos wins the series, probably many Fenerbahce fans will be wondering, what if Sloukas doesn't make that shot? What if Guduric doesn't leave any time for them to have that opportunity? And this is the beauty of playoff basketball, in my opinion. Like in regular season, when something like that happens, it's just one win.
yeah.
That affects the standings a little bit, but you kind of forget about it next week. And this is a shot that basically could change the whole season, the outcome of the season for both clubs.
In the second game, what I liked in the fourth quarter, for example, talking about hitting the right spots. Where do you attack Olympiacos? They switch with 4 every time. So basically what Fener does is involve Vezenkov in pick and roll, get the switch, and make Guduric or Dorsey attack Vezenkov, Make him defend, put pressure on him, see if he can get stops against perimeter players. And they came back in the fourth quarter basically because of this, because, other guys had to help. Then they kick out the ball, and then they have good quality shots from outside. So I just see, really important points of emphasis from Itoudis. One more could be this high pick and roll with Kalates, where they play like in a half court. I don't know if you noticed this, Kalates receives a screen in basically on half court. So, and he attacks Mustafa Fall with speed, and then just good things happen. So kudos to Itoudis, and I think we will have a really interesting game 4, and I wouldn't be surprised if this goes back to Piraeus for game 5. But after Sloukas making that shot, Olympiacos is happy to have the home court advantage.
Yeah, they recovered their home court advantage.
Yeah,
that's the thing. But Olympiacos, if you pick a team from all 8 teams that qualified for the playoffs, who is the team you would trust to have the winning play in the final seconds? I think everybody would say Olympiacos.
Probably yes. I mean, Sloukas, masterfulness, Vezenkov, quick catch and shoot ability. You can have also other players. Isaiah Cannon, could hit a shot. Giannulis Lorenzakis, if he's on the court, I count on him to hit that shot.
Yeah.
Shaquille McKissick making winning plays as well. I don't know. Maybe what other team you would have in mind?
I don't know. I mean, if Punter is playing, we
I
could
forgot
have
about
Partizan in this discussion.
I would have been that.
Coming to the office, I was like, so yeah, we said Kevin Punter is the most clutch, but what about Kostas Sloukas, guys? What about this discussion?
But that's just crazy. We already witnessed 2 game-winning shots in these playoffs. Like Punter's shot was not a buzzer beater; it was just a game winner, and this was a pure buzzer beater. We already witnessed 2 of those, and we're just halfway through.
I mean, yesterday, maybe I saw some comments, best game of the season. I don't agree with this because the game was not beautiful. The atmosphere was amazing in Istanbul, but the game wasn't beautiful in my eyes.
Partizan Madrid game 1 was better.
By far is the most beautiful series to watch. Offensive oriented teams, but the last 3 minutes and the shot making, especially in like last 1 minute and a half, was fantastic. Was some NBA level shit, in one team hits a shot, the other responds, and then you hit a game winner. And that's the power of having also timeouts where you could advance the ball.
Yeah.
What's too bad? It's only on dead ball. So
What's interesting that before the last time out, actually Vezenkov kind of encouraged Sloukas just to take the ball and to make that shot without, leaving any room for any other potential scenario. And when Vezenkov kind of made this speech, Barzakas just started dropping the play for Sloukas. Speaking of how remarkable it is how Fenerbahce made this series actually and made it very competitive is when you watch the game and you see guys like Wilbekin, even Devin Booker or Nemanja Bjelica, who was supposed to be one of the key players this year for Fenerbahce, being sidelined and not involved in the series, which makes Fenerbahce's rotation really short and which makes, Nigel Hayes-Davis, Deshaun Pierre, they should get some EuroLeague should create some award for these guys playing, basically over the limits.
The endurance award or what?
At least something like that, because Hayes-Davis, again, he's playing 37 minutes in the series, Deshaun Pierre 35, and I know that Nigel is vegan, so maybe that helped him to remain so...
he had 40-minute performances in the regular season.
Yeah, he basically finished the regular season.
I think.
Yeah, so...
The NBA has load management, EuroLeague has load mismanagement.
Man, in Europe, they want to play for every single euro that you got paid. So
the old mindset.
That's how it is in Europe.
Not only every single euro you got paid, I think in Europe, usually the mindset is you're paying for euros you could make next season. Like if you sign a huge deal in the NBA for the next 5 years, you're settled. And in Europe, you have a 1+1 contract or something like that. You're an American player. You always want to increase your value that your next contract would be better than the one you have right now.
If you play bad, then it's like
your value drops.
Doesn't matter if you have a guaranteed contract. The team says we don't want you, and then you have to kind of settle for 2 or 3 months only of that contract. Sometimes that happens, so it's always a battle for your money.
Well, in Hayes-Davis' case, he kind of signed an extension at the end of the regular season, and since that moment, basically, he started playing 40 minutes per game. So,
but he has great mentality. We know that from his 2 seasons in Kaunas. A very interesting personality as well off the court, and just a great basketball player.
Since you mentioned Zalgiris, what about the unsexiest playoff series that we had to suffer?
Game 2 was nice.
Game 2 was
good.
Probably the best Zalgiris offensive game in this season, I would say, because they played against elite defense in the EuroLeague.
And Game 3 was kind of a disappointment because people had hopes, expectations. The expectation was always for Zalgiris to have 2 sold-outs. It was not about beating Barca 3 times in a row. It was just about extending the series
2 games.
And to have 2 games at home. But there was just not enough quality. And when Barca has a nightmare in the first quarter with 8 turnovers, you expect to be ahead in that game, and you're down by 3. They have 8 turnovers. I think Zalgiris at one point had 8 more shots at the basket than Barca did, and Zalgiris was still down by 3.
10 more in the first quarter.
They couldn't just capitalize on their mistakes. They couldn't convert those turnovers. Actually, they didn't even convert their second chances. Like Ulanovas had 4 or 5 offensive rebounds in the first half, and
the ball was not going in.
He just didn't have points from those second chances. So
they just couldn't control their emotions, I would say. They were so nervous. It's probably the first time I've seen the team on that level being so nervous, passing the ball in each other's legs, hesitating to take some easy shots, doing some unnecessary dribble before taking shots. And that's kind of another side of home court advantage when you play in the front of 15,000 people. I think that kind of the same happened for Maccabi when there was this amazing pressure toward Monaco team, a lot of expectations to finish the series in Tel Aviv, and then suddenly they start playing as a different team because of all that hype and stuff. So maybe Zalgiris was also affected by all this stuff, because let's admit that it's a very young team in terms of EuroLeague experience.
I think when the game was going to the halftime with a very low score, that was 29-26, people who follow basketball and follow EuroLeague realize that Barcelona will not have these offensive struggles for 40 minutes. They will find a way. They will find their shots. They will not have another quarter with 8 turnovers. It was down to Zalgiris to do something extra, and Kaziz actually tried. He was looking for the best lineup. He started the third quarter with a very unusual lineup. Some players really didn't perform up to their standards in the series, not only in Game 3. And I think former Barcelona player Roland Schmitz was a disappointment in the series.
Definitely.
He didn't have any mismatches like during the season where he could use his skills in the paint. He didn't have any open looks from the perimeter. So
because Barcelona doesn't do mistakes
exactly,
often.
and for Zalgiris coaching staff was trying to put him in the best position, but they just didn't find anything. And in the elimination game, Roland Schmitz played the smallest amount of minutes that he did during the whole season. Before this game, it was 15 minutes versus Monaco because he was in a foul trouble.
He played 13, right?
And here, he played 13 minutes. So it was just a pure fact that the better team won the series, a much better team won the series, and it's not no coincidence that it was a sweep. Game 2 was a good competitive game from Zalgiris side. Game 3 at home was not so great, unfortunately. And I have to say that one of my mates, after the third quarter, went to Wikipedia and he changed the name of Zalgiris Arena to Mike Tobey Arena. Because Mike Tobey basically bought some land in that building.
We laughed after the game with Mike. He said that as soon as I see these guys with blonde hair, with blue eyes, I just start making shots. It is how it is. You know?
And he made those shots from basically the same spot. It was like 3 in a row.
3 in a row.
Yeah.
3 in a row from the same spot. And he starts the fourth quarter with an open look from a different angle, and all of a sudden it's short. But we know Mike Tobey, even though his release is unorthodox, he's a stretch 5. He's a pure stretch 5. Of course, in Barcelona system, he sometimes plays like a 4, or you can say they are playing with 2 centers.
2 centers.
But he is a guy who stretches the floor, and he likes those spot-up shots. What can I say?
Man, I mean, those first 2 were the consequence of Zalgiris, switching defense. But I was surprised by that third one. I mean, before this game, I said to myself, can Zalgiris replicate their offensive game that they showed in Game 2? And the answer was probably not, because Brasdeikis are not going to hit those step backs. And he felt too good in my eyes. He felt too good after Game 2. He missed. He tried to do too much, I think, in the first quarter.
Instead of being aggressive, he again went to the step back.
He fell in love with those step backs after Game 2. And, missing those first couple of shots impacted his game way too much. But then going back, the third... And then I was like, okay, so Zalgiris probably will not replicate the offensive game. So can they improve their defense? That was, Barcelona were averaging 90 points per game in the first 2. And I'm like, okay, yeah, they're playing now away. Maybe they can cut it down to 80, and maybe have a chance of winning this game. But then things like this happen. Mike Tobey just hits 2 threes. And I think Laprovitola is driving inside. He doesn't have any advantage against Lukas Lekavičius. And Polonara, who is guarding Mike Tobey, who just hit 2 threes, is standing 3 meters away next to the painted area, leaving Mike Tobey completely wide open. I mean, how can you do this? You are guarding, you have to know the personnel you are guarding. And then Mike Tobey hits the third one. And
Polonara is known for these mental mistakes. It's not a big surprise, unfortunately.
And then, even later, on the switching defense, Rokas Jokubaitis twice scored on Polonara. After timeout plays, Šarūnas Jasikevičius targeting Ignas Brasdeikis. Abrines free yesterday from the middle was an exact same play that they ran in the first game, and they also got an identical free-pointer. So, Žalgiris were the least experienced team coming into these playoffs, and despite Kazis Makskviris throwing every different tactic and trying to adjust before every game, it was simply Barca knew an answer to everything, and they were more experienced team.
Do you think maybe Isaiah Taylor was underplayed? I mean, I'm not sure if he was 100%, but do you think he should have more minutes?
Maybe
in a game like this?
Maybe just yesterday, but
Yeah, I'm talking about yesterday's game. I'm not talking about the series in general.
Because Game 1, he was obviously not ready.
Yes.
Game 2, Brasdeikis were killing it offensively.
Because Makskvitis was playing Dimša a lot at the point guard because of defensive purposes.
And to be honest, Dimša was
was pretty solid.
Pretty solid yesterday on offense. he was attacking, drop defense of Barcelona with aggressiveness. So I'm not sure it was necessary yesterday. And even though Taylor was, basically keeping Zalgiris in the game in the second half, with his couple of drives, I think he had like 6 points in the second half. So
I'm just saying that maybe. I'm not saying that it would save their season or anything like that. It's just that Taylor is probably the quickest guy Zalgiris has.
Definitely.
And, most skilled guy they have. So I wanted him on the court more, but that's just my opinion.
At the same time, Satoransky was attacking him and Lucas every time in the post.
Yeah, and then
they were creating
because he's put Lucas on Abrinas, who's basically an off-ball player.
Yeah,
but again, it's a huge size advantage for Barcelona. I think that for Barca,
that just shows how many options they have.
They should be very happy about their second half performance because usually. When you watch Barcelona, you expect Mirotic to be the guy who does all the scoring in the second half. Like it's very common that he finishes the first half on like 5 points or something like that, and then he just explodes after the halftime. And in this game, it did not happen. It was more about their Czech Republic guys running their pick and rolls. And I think the moment when Satoransky hit those 2 3-pointers in the third quarter, to me, actually that was the breaking point. I mean, Mike Tobey's shots, they just kill the game. But when Barca starts the third quarter, in the first minute or two, they just couldn't score points. And then Satoransky goes for a mid-range shot. It's in. Zalgiris is taking some defensive risks. He punishes them with 2 3-pointers. And at that moment, I'm thinking their point guard just showed the example, showed some leadership, and now they're going to get back their offensive flow. And we know Vesely, how good he is, and I have to say, these mid-range shots he's making, they're not very easy shots. They're kind of a tricky shot. They're tricky shots. Some players hate this range.
Mid-range.
Yeah, and for Vesely, it's becoming a very common shot, playing all these
sweet spots,
short rolls.
Yeah.
Zalgiris didn't allow him to have many layups like in Game 2. And they were living with the consequences of him taking those mid-range shots. And actually, in the first half, he missed like 4 in a row or 3
or 4 in a row.
Yeah,
right.
But then he started making those shots after the halftime. And alongside Satoransky, 2 Czechs, 2 good friends from the national team, really punished Zalgiris big time in this game.
Jan Vesely, I just saw now, was plus 31 yesterday.
Ooh.
In 25 minutes.
He had great series. He was
so
just
without
killing.
him, they were minus 20. In 15 minutes, he was on the bench.
It's
That's
actually
crazy.
hard to criticize Zalgiris or Kazis Maksvytis knowing
Absolutely not.
who they were against. In my opinion, the only slightest advantage that Zalgiris had was Laurynas Birutis.
As crazy as it may sound.
Other than that, you cannot find any mismatches. You don't have any advantages, whether Barca plays switch defense or they're doing the step out defense or whatever. I mean, Zalgiris just couldn't find any advantages offensively unless Birutis was fed in the post. Like he drew a lot of fouls from Shanley, from Vesely. He scored points. For him, it was a good series, I would say.
Definitely.
It's surreal to see Jan Vesely defending Birutis on the post and just making a foul because he knows that probably he won't stop that inside play. So that speaks a lot about Laurynas Birutis' season and the expectations we had before the season.
Exactly.
How he has progressed and how important he suddenly became. He basically became the main Zalgiris center.
Before the season, I thought he was like the weakest link in their rotation.
First 10 games as well.
Many
Remember what everyone was talking after first 10 games?
But right now, he's a really good center who can finish with both hands. I think he shoots with his left, but he is a right-handed person. So
I think so.
That makes him very strong on both sides. Kind of like Donatas Motiejunas, who can finish with his right as well as with his left. And for Birutis, it was a good season, second half of the season, and good series. I think that's the positives we can take from Zalgiris' side.
Yeah, you mentioned offensive flow, and I remember I watched the scoreboard after 3 quarters, and when as top 4 scorers of your team you have Birutis, Dimša, Lekavičius, and Butkevičius, you know you're in trouble. Then when you look at the stats and when you see the playoff averages and when you have 6 Lithuanians as your top scorers, you know you're in trouble because I would say like in Serbia and Lithuania it's kind of the same. Yes, the local players, they are important, but they should be like a glue guys, defensive-minded players, and usually this personnel from abroad, you know, they make the biggest impact. And you have Roland Schmitz as being very disappointing in the series. I had high hopes before the series. I thought that him finally, you know, finding his, leaving Barcelona, a big team, and getting a big role in Zalgiris, being, I would say, one of the most consistent players of the season on both ends, especially. Knowing Mirotic so well, having these big ambitions because you're playing Barca, your former team, I expected that Schmitz will be... I wouldn't say very successful, but very important and solid in this series. But he just, one part is to know Mirotic and Barca very well. The other part is that Šaras knows you even better. Mirotic also knows you real well, and they really expose Schmitz. But I didn't expect him to be so bad in the series, averaging only 3.3 points per game, being 11th in Žalgiris, both in scoring and efficiency. For playing such an important role in the team, it's a huge luxury for the team like Žalgiris to have Roland Schmitz underperforming that bad. But again, there was also Polonara, Isaiah Taylor, obviously impacted by injuries. Moving forward, Žalgiris should celebrate the season. That was a great achievement.
Of course.
But moving forward, now they start they should start thinking how we can improve from this situation to put ourselves in a better situation and under better conditions to try to make another step going forward.
Yeah, to add more quality, because next season other teams will see Žalgiris as a playoff team. It will be a different approach because this season Žalgiris started as a bottom team in the previous year, and maybe other teams didn't respect them so much. Next season, you will have that respect, and obviously, to be successful once again, you need more quality. I think Žalgiris was not a good offensive team this season, and I think they're like not a very modern team the way they play basketball, although some things worked for them and some, let's say, not traditional methods really paid off, like they were a team that doesn't have many assists, but basically their offensive rebound is an assist. That's what we were used to watching the regular season. So it was a great year for Žalgiris. Barca is just too strong of a team. You could not expect them to win the series, of course. At least one game was the expectation many people had. Also, I have to say that Šaras had an answer for anything that Kazis Maksvytis could offer.
Yep.
For everything that Žalgiris tried, Šaras was prepared, and it again shows
not only Šaras but his players.
And his players, of course.
So the execution was
a
also
lot of credit
at the
to the players.
level. You said Roland Schmitz had a disappointing series, and I agree. But it just shows with Barca. Barca don't allow you to play basketball.
Yeah. It was not only about Schmitz. It was mostly and mainly about Barca.
It's really hard. First of all, they don't do mistakes, let's say, when you are running off screens. Usually, Schmitz were baseline out of bounds play, Žalgiris had for him. He runs out of screen. Oh, he's wide open. He makes a free. There was a situation like this probably every game during the regular season. In the post, it's hard even to get the ball in the post because they front. It's hard to pass. If there's a lob, there's a double team coming. Really difficult. Then if you get the ball in the post, there is the zone defense that Barca plays, when you are playing with your back to the basket. So it's just really complicated. And as you said, Šaras had an answer for everything. We saw slip screens in game 1 against Twitch Hall. We saw confusing spacing for Žalgiris against step out defense in game 2. And then again yesterday, just finding the right balance, attacking the switching defense again, and the drop defense that Žalgiris finally showed in game 3. That's why La Provitola didn't have 11 assists yesterday, because Žalgiris changed their system again. They were dropping against him, not hedging aggressively. But in the second half, Jan Vesely hits the mid range, and there's an answer for everything basically. So in my eyes, Barca are the main favorites to win everything this year. And I think this strong series against Žalgiris shows that they are more than ready. But it's always, game one game. So
yeah, you've talked about the Lithuanian players. I think when Zalgiris was down double digits, because he's actually tried the Lithuanian lineup with 5 Lithuanian players on the court. It didn't really work out, but he tried it. I think that was the idea, that these guys care about Zalgiris. They will do everything to save the season. And one guy just stands out for me when we're talking about this season. I've mentioned Birutis already as a player who really silenced all the doubters. He proved that he belongs in the EuroLeague and he can play for Zalgiris. Another guy is, of course, Arnas Butkevičius. We've talked about his defensive performances the whole year. He probably would be in an all-defense first team this season, alongside guys like Thomas Walkup.
He's like the third best defensive player in my eyes this season. Walkup and Tavares.
Top 3 for sure.
Butkevičius.
For sure. But why I don't see him as an elite player, let's say on a Final Four team, it's 25% shooting from 3-point range. And basically, when we're talking about these guys who can be on elite teams, they usually are 3 and D guys. And it seemed like at some point that Arnas Butkevičius is making these shots and he's punishing other teams. But in the end of the season, you have 25%. And we're talking about a player who plays 25 or 30 minutes, which means that defensively he's doing an enormous job, but offensively he's a problem sometimes, and especially against Barcelona. I don't think he made a spot-up shot in this series.
During the playoffs, he missed all 4 3-pointers.
Exactly. He's a great player. He is a great guy. You love to have him on your team. But this is why I couldn't imagine him on Barcelona, Real Madrid, FS, or any other team just for defensive purposes. Because to play for those teams, you also need to be able to hit at least a spot-up shot.
Although we're setting the bar very high for the guy who many believed they were not sure if he can play in the EuroLeague level. So, step by step. As a local player for Zalgiris,
that is
an
true,
ideal option.
and I don't have anything against that. He is a very important player for Zalgiris for next few years to come. I'm just saying that during the season, at some point, there was a discussion, should big clubs go for Butkevičius as a player who's so good on defense? And to me, the answer why they wouldn't is 25%. That's the answer.
I looked at, two players popped into my head at the moment when you were talking, Shaquille McKissick and Nikola Kalinic. Basically the same position, basically guys that are playing great defense, but obviously they have something else to offer as well. Shaq is probably one of the quickest players and most explosive players in all EuroLeague.
And he can also be a ball handler.
He can also be a ball handler. And his 3-point percentage is 29. So that's, basically similar. 25 or 29 doesn't really matter to the opposing team. And Nikola Kalinic is 39. So plus he can post up as well.
He creates from
there.
there.
That's another level.
I was thinking about Alpha Diallo, for instance. I'm just in general, I think that this forward position, 3-and-D guy position, is something that elite teams are still looking for. I wouldn't name a lot of elite forwards at not the elite level like Will Clyburn, some obvious Gabriel deck choices. The gap between them, these elite guys, and the others, it feels like EuroLeague teams, the top EuroLeague teams, still trying to find those guys.
NBA teams are trying to find those guys, and
it's a tough position.
Not every team finds them. There are not too many players that basically are happy with standing in the corner every possession and waiting for the opportunity and being able to hit 40% of those shots and at the same time doing all the hard work defensively.
But you know why I think maybe 25% is not fair to Butkevičius? Is because of Zalgiris' offense.
He had too many shots on dead possessions?
Too many shots late in the clock because basically... I remember this game where he went 0 from 6 from 3-point range. I think it was Maccabi or Monaco. Maccabi. And basically he had 4 shots from 8 meters at the last seconds because, Zalgiris guards can't create anything and then they pass him the ball and he goes, he has to shoot. So I think if you put him on a better team, maybe he gets more open shots and this percentage, goes up a little bit. But I agree with your point that definitely, he would get treatment that maybe, Nick Kalidis was getting, last season.
And he's not a ball handler as well.
He's not a ball handler as well. So, yeah, it would be a tricky one, but an amazing season for Arnas Butkevičius.
For sure.
What's also interesting that only 5 Žalgiris players in this series against Barca made a 3-pointer. And for instance, Akila Polnara made just 1 3-pointer. And then you have Dimša
in an ISO situation.
0 from 7, Butkevičius 0 from 4, and Isaiah Taylor as your basically main point guard 0 from 1. So, I mean, that's a clear indicator for Žalgiris what they should do, trying to make this next step to, first of all, to try to find the pure shooter that they were thinking of. Karolis Lukašūnas might be becoming, but that project wasn't successful. Then I've heard that they're looking for another option for the backcourt who could help them in scoring. And from what I hear, they're looking for a stretch 4. I don't know if it's related to Roland Schmitz, who is not going to be easy to keep for Žalgiris for the next year, or it's more related to Tyler Cavanaugh. But these probably the 3 main focal points of their upgrading ideas in this offseason.
If Cavanaugh and Polonara both leave, you must sign a stretch 4, whether Schmitz stays or not.
Yeah,
you need players in your rotation. That's for sure. Correct me if I'm wrong. You have the stats. Barca hit more 3-point shots in game 1 than Žalgiris in all 3 games, right?
In which game, Barca?
Game 1. I think game 1 Barca finished 14 from 26.
Žalgiris had 2 quickly in the first game, if I'm not mistaken.
4 yesterday.
Yeah, 2.
Let's check very quickly.
6, and then no, they hit 8 in the game 2. So basically, Barca made 14 in game 1, and Žalgiris in the rest of the season 14
in the whole series.
Yeah.
You cannot expect to win a series with these numbers.
Yeah.
Anyway,
nobody actually expected to win.
No.
Barca,
as I said, the expectation was to win 1 game, and the game 2 performance deserves a lot of respect. How Žalgiris performed after being beaten by 20 in game 1.
Just the last thing I wanted to ask you about Barca. It's, first of all, they made the Final Four for the 3rd season in a row, which you cannot take for granted. You can look at Efes situation, you can look at Milan situation. Now Real Madrid is facing the elimination. It's not easy at all, and Barca made the 3rd consecutive Final Four only for the 2nd time in the last 23 years of the modern EuroLeague. The first time they avoided for the first time under Šarūnas Jasikevičius, they avoided the Game 5 drama. And watching them this year, watching them in April, approaching May at the decisive moment of the season, do you see them stronger or better prepared for the Final Four and finally this title run when compared to the 2 previous seasons? Do you think that they are in a better situation to win the title finally?
It looks like that, first of all, because they didn't have a 5-game series. Even Šaras talked about having a little bit more time for some players to recover physically and mentally, to have better preparations for the Final Four. Of course, they will play some ACB League games, but now they have more space because they don't have to play Game 4 and Game 5. And maybe they are in a better position because their point guard can make shots. I'm talking about Satoransky. Maybe it looks like they're playing a bit better right now. But I wouldn't say about last season, but the season before, they also seemed in a very good position. They did beat Milan in the semifinal.
They just faced one of the greatest EuroLeague teams that we ever had, Efes in the final.
It's tricky, You can talk about them being better, but again, it all depends on one game. In the semifinal, they might be facing Obradovic, or they might be facing El Clasico. And in these El Clasicos, you never know. You might be leading for 39 minutes, but then you might lose the game eventually. So I don't know. Maybe there's some magic in the air about Šaras playing, coaching his team in Kaunas in the Final Four. But we will see. This season they're the 2nd-seeded team, not the 1st-seeded team. But it did look like they're feeling better. They're more confident. But again, they were facing a team that just was not that strong to test them to their limits, in my opinion.
Definitely not. Žalgiris weren't that great as Bayern München or Zenit 2 years ago with Kevin Pangos. And but I don't know. I'm watching this Barcelona, and I don't know why I have this. I don't know. I'm confident somehow in some way that this year is theirs. I believe that Satoransky and Vesely are great, fitting really well for this team with Sharas. I believe they are in a great shape at the moment. They showed that they know basically how to attack every different defense. They show that they have confidence in themselves, even those non-shooters that you might risk with. And they just have so many different options that you can choose from. Obviously, game one game is so tricky. So I can't say Barcelona are going to win the game, but I think they're in a much better spot than the last 2 years.
The only thing I'm missing in Barca is that basically the guy who was supposed to be, Kostas Sloukas, Kevin Punter, those guys, Mike James playing amazing game 3 against Maccabi, they kind of reminded that in the decisive moment of the year, it's about backcourt stars, and the problem of Barca is that they're missing their main, the guy who was supposed to be the main backcourt scorer, Corey Higgins. He's injured again, and it's not clear in what kind of shape and momentum he will return for the Final Four. So maybe that's the only thing I'm missing for Barca to have this, let's say, complete picture for the title run, because that might be important. These guys decide games. These guys might decide titles. So, of course, they have some other, personal, like La Provitola. He can become that guy who can kill the game. But I think that Corey Higgins' contribution is huge for Barca. Speaking of the highest goals. By the way, I just checked randomly Barca's. I mentioned 5 Zalgiris guys who made a single 3-pointer in the series. For instance, at least 9 Barcelona players made a 3-pointer in the series, and the lowest, Alex Abrinas had the lowest percentage, 38%. All of the rest guys, at least 40%.
That's crazy.
That's
talking
something
about the shot quality and the shot making.
Yeah. Most of these shots were good looks. Most of them were spot-up shots, not off-dribble shots, not step-backs like Brazdeikis shots.
Not at all.
And just the last thing I wanted to address that, we had to watch Zalgiris game. It was part of our main work that night. Then we all switched on Fenerbahce and Olympiacos. But many forget that there was the EuroCup final as well. And I don't know what the funny thing.
Disaster.
The funny thing is that the main highlight of the EuroCup final was that
what
the head coach of the team of Ankara, Erdem Can, he coached his team with neck brace because he got injured on his way to the last practice before the final. And I will just quote the general manager of Ankara team, how he explained what has happened. So he's saying that I'm in the hospital right now waiting for the news from Erdem Can. We know the way. It takes 10 minutes to go to the gym with the bus. So it started showing, I'm quoting the Turkish tweet post, which is translated, so it might be not the most fluent English. It started showing 45 minutes when the driver put us on the wrong track. He said, I'm the driver, and started to show us around. At that time, the volume of the music was very loud. He said, I listen to the music I want. At the point where our head coach stood up and turned down the volume of the music, he deliberately stepped on the brake, and our head coach hit the glass. His neck is in a very bad condition. And probably we all saw the pictures of this, broken glass of the bus. And we saw him, the coach, I think he will still have the MRI of the situation, but it's some crazy story. I don't remember, I would say it's some old school European basketball story. I already did some short research on some crazy stuff that happens before the decisive games in the playoff series, and one of the most casual thing, how you can try to put the away team in a worse situation for the final run, is like basically just releasing air from the balls during the warm-up. I call it potato balls, and when players try to warm up, the ball basically cannot bounce off the floor, and then of course they switch with new balls before the game, and it can affect your shooting. That's what actually happened to quite a few EuroLeague teams in the last couple of years. But this driver thing, that's something unique. Gran Canaria put it in. Of course, I'm not blaming Gran Canaria, but I mean, these Spanish guys, they made it to the next level, I think.
I don't know. It sounds disgusting if that's how things went. Like, it's very disrespectful and everything, and you're also putting somebody's health at risk. At the same time.
I mean, I was shocked seeing the broken window of the bus. I mean, does this guy had it all planned or?
I don't know. It's just.
It's ridiculous.
It's just very bad, but it's also a disgrace that they played a EuroCup final yesterday. How can you not find an open spot to play your final on a different time? Play it on Monday. There's no EuroLeague on Monday. Play it next week. At least you have
late on the weekend. It's 4 teams
make
involved.
The game on Friday,
just
whatever.
Do something. It's just one game. It's not a series. It's one game. It's the EuroCup final. 2 teams playing for a EuroLeague spot. It's kind of a big deal, and it just looks like nobody cares about it. Gran Canaria winning brings them back to the EuroLeague, right?
Yeah.
With Coach Jakalakovic. I think the other 17 teams are not very happy.
Well, they're gonna test themselves for Dubai.
These trips to Canary Islands are very difficult. Also, that gym, as I remember, the last time Gran Canaria was in EuroLeague, they had problems with the roof. There was some leakage, and when FS played Gran Canaria during the warm-up, Shane Larkin slipped and injured his ankle, and Ataman was very angry. So I don't know if other EuroLeague clubs are very excited about playing Gran Canaria away. Valencia probably would be their preferred choice, but that's how the system works. And is Gran Canaria replacing Valencia actually?
Probably yes. It's kind of unofficial.
You're not going to have 5 Spanish teams on
So basically the EuroLeague picture will remain the same except from Valencia and Gran Canaria basically stepping up in their place.
Okay.
So again, that might be a good test before voting for Dubai's project. I mean, they're gonna test themselves for these long trips. There was a great tweet by Pete Hurtado, famous Spanish commentator, how he put things in one tweet, what has happened the last week in European basketball. So first of all,
a crazy
fight in the Wizing Center, Brian Dunstan's traffic accident, assault on Alexis Shved and his big concussion, Chris Singleton having heart problems. Thank God it's not that serious as it looked at the start, and break of Turk Telecom bus that hit Erdencan badly. So, well, let's hope that this was the
too many
last
things
such week.
you wouldn't want to happen.
Yeah,
you would like to have just pure basketball. By the way, I just wanted to make a quick remark about one thing I took from watching the NBA playoffs during the night. Miami Heat, New York Knicks game 2. Miami Heat being without Jimmy Butler, the best player of these playoffs. And how creative Eric Spoelstra is, it just continues to surprise me. Like, you have Bam Adebayo as your 5 and Max Strus as your 2, and they are playing pick and pop, where Strus sets the screen and pops. Bam is the creator. The New York Knicks don't know what the hell is happening. Then they're playing Kevin Love as a 4 or as a 5, but they're running staggers for him like he's a shooting guard. And at this time, I'm thinking, during the night watching this game, the game today is not about positions at all. It's about what you can offer and playing to your strengths. It doesn't matter whether you're a 5 or a 2. It's all about your skill set. And Eric Spoelstra is just a genius at it. Like, what he does with this team, even without Jimmy Butler, they were competing. They had an opportunity to win game 2 in Madison Square Garden and be up 2-0, because basically they're like, as I tweeted, 5 injuries away from playing Udonis Haslem. They're losing players every single night, but wow, it's just impressive to see the elite level of coaching in the NBA, as well as in EuroLeague, of course.
Yeah, positionless basketball is much more in effect. I think in the NBA in Europe, it's still
Of course, not everybody has a sender like Bama Adebayo who can handle the ball and pass the ball the way he does.
Not everybody has personnel to play.
Yeah, exactly.
But Miami's a fun team to watch, and after this I have to rewatch that game.
And another thing, Nikola Jokic is taking some hostages in Phoenix. I think DeAndre Ayton is now a hostage, and people should be concerned. He's also having Bismack Biyombo in his back pocket, and basically the whole Phoenix team.
And that pick and roll Murray Jokic is just.
I mean, they don't have an answer. You have a center who's shooting floaters, teardrops, and everything. At the same time, he kills you in the post. It's just ridiculous.
I just don't think Phoenix have the depth, and right now
no, they don't have any depth.
Paul, probably not playing games 3, 4, and 5.
If game 5 is going to happen. Yeah, they don't have any bench. In game 2, they had 4 points from their bench.
Ardonas, basically we can just put off these cameras and let them discuss.
I just wanted to say, because there's some interesting
It's great
stuff.
To have you back.
I could have a lot more takes, but we're running out of time.
It's great to have you back, Rytis. We missed you, Vivo Augustus, and thank you all for watching us during this intense weeks of the playoffs on both sides of the ocean. And just please, if you watched it until the end, put some effort to press like button, subscribe our channel, and if you want to be even closer, join us on basketnews.com/plus to be part of our community. Thank you, and see you very soon.